Hello and welcome to Ware Gaming News for August 3rd, 2020. My name is Nick, and across the world from me is my brother Josh. Say hi,
Hi,
Josh.
Josh.
Just so you know, the internet is being a little crazy today, so if it skips out on us, please forgive us. But
Yeah,
you'll have all the audio in some form, in some way, so we'll be able to get that taken care of for you. How are you this week, Josh?
I'm doing pretty good. I've had a couple computer issues, so hopefully we have all the audio.
Yeah,
One day, it just randomly shut off for no reason. I did a
yeah,
diagnostic on it. I was afraid my power supply might be going out, or I had that problem early on when I swapped hard drives. I was having issues, but it seems like the power supply unit's still all right. I'm not losing any voltage on it. It's not heating up, so hopefully it sticks around for a little bit longer. Because the last
that's
time I
good.
had one of those fry, it fried the whole motherboard, the CPU, everything.
Oh, yeah. Let's
Yeah,
not let's not have that happen this time. That would not be
playing
great.
The Sims.
No. Um, So it seems that this week has been really boring on my part. Like I have nothing interesting to share other than I don't know. Someone blocked me on Twitter for saying something not that mean, but it's fine.
Um,
Uh, but what were you gonna say?
I was gonna say on my end, I've been playing a whole ton more of Ghost of Tsushima, um,
Sushi.
and it is quickly climbing the ranks. Is probably going to be my game of the year, but
Yeah,
um, because it's just exactly what I wanted from, like, this is the evolution of Assassin's Creed that I always wanted.
yeah,
And the story, there's no weirdness to the story. There's no They care about the story, and I think all the elements that worked in Assassin's Creed are there, and the elements that didn't work are pretty much either gone or refined to a point where they're not annoying.
yeah,
So I think this game is great, and highly recommended to anybody who likes the Assassin's Creed open world, that kind of stuff, and
yeah.
have felt left behind by what the direction Assassin's Creed has gone. Um, and then otherwise, I really haven't been playing anything else. I'm eyeing what I might do after this one finally ends. I kind of want to watch samurai films, but
Yeah. No, I hear you. That's crossed my mind a few times. Um, I definitely recommend watching Seven Samurai because because that's like top god tier, as you were saying, god
yeah,
tier samurai film.
uh,
Preferably not one that stars Tom Cruise, but
no,
that's just my cup of tea. No, I've been playing it as well. I haven't been playing it as much as you have because I mean, I was gonna say because I've been working like you haven't been, but
right,
I've just been spending great. So I have been playing a little bit, but not as much. I've been mainly spending my off time watching Community, which is a show that I have been told a lot of times to get into, but it like so many shows out there. It's just like there's a lot of seasons, hard to get into, but I've finally dedicated some time, and I'm actually really enjoying it.
yeah,
There's a lot of good references. It has Childish Gambino. For the life of me, can't
Donald
think of
Glover.
his actual name. Donald Glover, um, and actually, that's the only one from the show that. Oh, John Oliver's in it. He's like a special guest every once in a
Okay,
while. John Oliver's in it, and it's just a really like what I was told when my friend was convincing me to watch it, and then what I can now confirm is that like the first season, it seems like the writers are trying to make the show something else, like a typical sitcom where there's a will they, won't they. There's like these people are definitely going to get together, and there's this clear end goal. And then like halfway through season one and definitely into season two, they decide they don't care about what a traditional sitcom looks like anymore, and they just completely start like making it up as they go, and that's when the show becomes
yeah,
hilarious. Like there's something happens really early in season one that makes you think like, oh, these people are going to start dating, and then when I think it's like the pre, like you know how shows back in the day had like a winter break
yeah, yeah,
essentially. I guess they still
yeah.
do, but it was
A
more
mid
evident then.
season break.
Yeah. Well, like before the mid-season break, there was like, oh, this tension, and then after it back, they just completely made fun of it the entire time. They're like, "You thought this was going to happen," and then they just like insulted it, and they're like, "This is not how we're going to go," and it's great. Jack Black's in it a few. Well, he's been in it once, and Owen Wilson was in it once, and um, so anyway, I highly recommend. I'm probably speaking to the choir. I mean, besides you, anyone who listens probably already knows about it. But
Yeah.
anyway, so that's what I've been doing. I did play some more Streets of Rage 4, and I have decided to up the or down the difficulty on it because it's a really hard game.
Okay.
Um, I've started playing it with like a bunch of extra assists, and I still suck at it. So I think I'm done with it.
Hmm.
So I like what it's trying to do, but some of these enemies are super annoying, and I'm just not into it anymore. So
Mm.
I feel bad because I heard a lot of people say a lot of good things about it,
Yeah.
but maybe I'll get down deeper on a Ware Gaming Weekly episode. For now, the game that's um, for now, what it seems to be is that it's Sony's turn to be in the hot seat this week.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Because last week we talked a lot about Xbox, and we will talk about them again today. Um, but last week it was definitely like there's a lot of questionable or like a lot of uncertainty about what Xbox is doing. This week, PlayStation has confirmed a lot of things, and some things have been unpopular. From backwards compatibility of peripheral devices through to the announcement of this week's State of Play, there's just been a lot of questions about what they're doing. So here is a breakdown of some of the recent blog posts. The first one was something I think we either brought up on the show or talked about off of the show. I have a guess of whether or not the PS4 controller will work for PS5.
No, I think it was definitely on last week's Ware Gaming News / Weekly, where I was like, well, for sure, PS4 controllers will work on PS5.
And they must
And
have been listening to us because today
well,
we're recording. PlayStation announced in an official blog post several updates about the compatibility with the current hardware peripherals between the PS4 and the PS5. First thing they state is which existing PS4 peripherals and accessories will work on PS5. So the things they list off: officially licensed racing wheels, arcade sticks, flight sticks will work with PS5 games and supported PS4 games. The platinum and gold wireless headsets, as well as third-party headsets that connect via USB or audio jack, will work on the PS5. The DualShock 4 wireless controller and PlayStation officially licensed third-party gamepad controllers will work for supported PS4 games, and both the PS Move controllers and the PlayStation VR Aim controller will work with the supported PSVR games on PS5. Um, they also announced that the PlayStation camera will work for the PS5 for playing supported PSVR games. And it will require a PlayStation camera adapter that will be provided at no additional cost to PSVR users. But the kicker for the reason this whole thing's even in there,
yeah,
because how many of us own fight sticks and racing wheels, is that while the PS4, the DualShock 4 will work on the PS5, it'll only work for PS4 games that are being played on the PS5. Uh,
yeah,
it says, will the DualShock 4 work the PS5 games? And they say, no, we believe that PS5 games should take advantage of the new capabilities and features we're bringing to the platform, including the features of the DualSense wireless controller. So there's my point. If we were
yeah,
betting,
yeah. That's disappointing. I get what they're trying to say, but it's dumb. I think for the most part, like any added benefit to what they're doing to the controller can't make that big a difference. I don't think. I mean, maybe they'll prove me wrong, but to the point that I couldn't use the same setup controller to play the game. Like it's not like it's wildly different as far as
I
the
mean, I'll
button.
agree with that thought
The buttons
process.
are exactly the same. I can't imagine it's going to be that different. It connects to the system the same way. It's got a touchpad. It's got everything. It just doesn't have the gritty or whatever haptic feedback, which might be important for some games. But overall, if we're playing a multiplayer game, why can't I just give you a controller that's PS? That's where the Switch and Xbox are like are now way ahead of PlayStation in that front. With Xbox, you can use the PS or the Xbox 360 or not 360. Can you use a 360?
I don't believe so.
Maybe not. Xbox One and the Elite controllers all backwards compatible, and with the Switch, you can use a Wiimote. You can use like
Yeah,
practically anything with the Switch to play the games, and
yeah,
it's just crazy that Sony's going to take this jab here when it would have been easy. Like, yes, you can use it, but we recommend that you play PS5 games with the
yeah.
DualShock or DualSense. And then the other question would be: is that true? Is this only talking about Sony first party games, or is that true of all PS5 games? Like, if Madden has a PS4 and a PS5 version, does it matter since it's technically a PS4 game?
Right.
If there's a PS5 version, I don't know. We'll find that answer out, I'm
Yeah.
sure.
Well, I mean, I was gonna say pretty much the same thing. Well, I mean, actually, no, that's not true. I disagree. I don't disagree. I just have a different perspective. I think the controversy around this is a little overblown, um, because the jump between 3 and 4 didn't really have a need for the DualShock 3, especially. But also, the point that will be made is the DualShock 4 is leagues and bounds better than the DualShock 3. Sure, I
And the
hear that.
touchpad.
And the touchpad. Um, but the reason I don't think this is that big of a deal is because you'll get a a DualSense controller when you buy the DualShock 5. If I mean when you buy the PS5. So it's not like you have to go and I mean you will eventually have to go and buy another one if you two are playing PS5 games. But if multiple people are but like if you're just upset that see, I get that's really where the problem is. I mean, like, sure, if you have more than one controller and you just really love your red PS4 controller, like I get that. But unless they said, "Oh, we're not packaging the PS5 with a dual sense, you have to buy that separately," then I would be like, "Okay, well that's shitty." But since you're getting one anyway
Yeah,
with the system, that's why I'm not so bothered by it.
I'm only bothered by it in the sense of it makes sense to bring them forward. It's consumer friendly. I are with the track record of the DualShock 4 it feels better. It runs better, but the battery is worse,
Right,
and they tend to die. I've had probably a dozen different controllers, but right now I have 2 or 3 controllers that I really like. I have a Star Wars branded one from the PS4 Pro, and I have the Midnight Blue one. And when I upgrade, I might want to use those controllers.
right,
Um, and I don't see why I like. Sure, I'll have the new Dual Sense, but that will have to charge eventually, and then I have to wait or buy another controller when already have 2 controllers sitting here. Um, I
yeah,
mean I mean,
that's
overall,
fair.
it's not a deal breaker for me at all, or, it's not like, "Oh, damn Sony," or anything. It's just like it's just a bummer. Um,
Yeah,
I mean, Xbox has had plenty of them, and Sony will see a few more, I'm sure. I think right now the bigger bummer is why are we not seeing a price? But we'll get into that later.
yeah. That's one of the points I was gonna make in a minute for a future thing. But yeah, what I do hope that they prove it. I'm like, I get that it's disappointing. I hope that we'll see such a difference with the dual sense that it makes sense to do it.
Uh,
What's also being considered a very anti-consumer move is this next article with Spider-Man coming to Marvel's Avengers. Do you want to read this, or do you want me to read it?
sure. Uh, so Spider-Man is coming exclusively to PS4's and I assume PS5's version of Marvel's Avengers as a post-launch character in 2021. This has sparked a fierce debate once again about the ethicalness of exclusivity.
It didn't give me a red underline, so I figured it was a word.
Okay,
I was gonna say
uh,
ethicality, but I didn't think ethicality worked either.
uh, th- I would just say the ethics of exclusivity on consoles, specifically when it comes to a third-party game. Most people are upset on Twitter, which is like you could make that a sentence. Most people are upset on Twitter. Period.
Maybe I should just read
Period.
it.
No, no, I'm just saying that is a sentence separate from what you have
What?
written here. Most people are upset
Oh,
on Twitter.
oh, well, yeah.
That's just a fact. Anyway, many.
Oh, I see.
I wasn't judging your
I thought
typing.
you were judging my writing. I was like,
You're like maybe I should. No, no, I'm just saying most people are upset on Twitter. Period.
yeah, that's fair.
uh,
Yeah.
labeling it as anti-consumer, and some equating it to when Destiny had similar deals with PlayStation over exclusive content. I IGN's Jonathan Dornbush wrote a response to all of this. Marvel's Avengers Spider-Man exclusivity is good for PlayStation but bad for players. And this is probably similar to what anybody who talked about Destiny had to say. It's quite simply a brilliant marketing move. This is again the quote from Jonathan Dorbush. Um, a brilliant marketing move on a brand recognition level. This only further solidifies PlayStation's connection with Spider-Man, even if it's not the same Spidey as in the 2018 game. Oh, it's not.
Which I haven't seen anywhere else. But I guess it's not.
Um, that PS4 that PS4 exclusive is one of the biggest games of the generation and the best-selling superhero game ever in the U.S. Marvel Spider-Man Miles Morales. Oh, that was the end of the sentence. Best-selling superhero game ever in the U.S. Marvel's Spider-Man Miles Morales is positioned as one of the reasons to buy a PS5 this holiday. And now, if you want to play the Spider-Man featured in Marvel's big Avengers game and see him team up with Marvel's heroes, PlayStation is the only place to do just that.
And
And later on in the article, Jonathan says, uh, "It's not fair for players on Xbox or PC who have no idea that at this stage if they'll ever to get to play as Spider-Man in the Avengers, if they'll receive other exclusive characters to balance things out, or if they'll just never see the webhead swinging around their games. Crossplay between consoles isn't announced for Avengers yet, only between generations, so PS4 and PS5. And system exclusive characters make the idea of this that even less likely at a time when crossplay and cross progression have become ever more routinely part of gaming."
yeah. So a couple other things that were pointed out in the article that you can go read on IGN were that was this point of like not only do we not know if it's a timed exclusive, which I doubt you'll ever see it on Xbox. But if they're getting their own like version, like Soul Calibur's level of, oh, they get this and we get this. Um, and also a very interesting point that was made, to me at least, is that because Spider-Man will be a post-launch character, that you like whatever his role in the story is going to be very minimal. They've already talked about in the war tables that like every additional character is going to have their own like story, like character missions, hero missions, or whatever.
Hmm.
Um, but because that it's only going to be for quote unquote, or for lack of a better term, half of the player base or a third of the player base, uh, and uh, since um, other like you can't have, I mean, I guess you can, but like you can't have like crucial story beats happen with a character that only exists in one version of the game. Um, that it seems really pointless to put Spider-Man in there other than just to get people to buy the PS4 version. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, I agree. Especially if this character is not the Spider-Man from Marvel Spider-Man PS4. Um, if this is just a different version of Spider-Man, I don't see why this is exclusive, other than like money. But and that's why. I mean, I get why. I'm
yeah,
saying, I don't see why they couldn't just put why they wouldn't just do something similar. Even make it just two different character models, and
yeah,
we get Marvel Spider-Man, and they get just Spider-Man, a different version of Spider-Man, and we get the
yeah,
same story. Um, I don't know that it won't uh, mean anything because I mean there's comic book lines that uh, in comic books just things happen all over the place
yeah,
anyway, so it wouldn't be strange for our version of Marvel's Avengers is doing something different than what Xbox's is doing, and they could just be telling a different story at that point in the uh,
yeah,
place because in theirs, Spider-Man's not even going to exist, I guess, and
yeah,
so his story isn't going to matter to them, but it'll matter to PS4 players.
yeah. I do think like for me the whole exciting, well, for a lot of people I guess the exciting part was like seeing that Spider-Man in this game.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
So, I mean, from a lot of perspectives, I can see why that's not going to be the case. Like, based on how they're showing how this game is being played, like the gameplay mechanics, like I feel like it'd be really weird to use that Spider-Man and play the way you play in Marvel's Avengers. On top of
Um,
that, but that would have made it a really awesome moment and would have also solidified why you can only play as Spider-Man. But like, you can play as Spider-Man in um, Marvel's Ultimate Alliance on the Switch. Like,
yeah,
so it's not like PlayStation has or Sony has like exclusive
entire
video game rights. Like
yeah.
um so like a lot of the debate, it makes sense. Um but I feel like it's more than just like when people are upset that Insomniac was making Spider-Man before they were acquired by Sony, and making it for only Sony. I know people were upset like, well, why didn't we get, because we got Sunset Overdrive or whatever. Like, that stuff doesn't bother me a whole lot. I'm like, it sucks that there's a portion of the playing gaming community that won't get to play it because they don't have a PlayStation 4. But like, but that's just how that works. That's just, it doesn't matter who it is. It's
Right.
God of War,
Sony
Spider-Man. It's
Sony
just
paid for that game to be
yeah.
made.
But because it's Marvel Spider-Man, because it's a third party game, I feel like it's a little more
Marvel
insult to
since
injury.
because it's Marvel's Avengers.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I mean, this does suck for Xbox and PC. Um, if it's not going to be uh the Spider-Man from the PS4 games,
2018 Spider-Man.
right? I could see a world if it's going to do the Destiny model, uh, uh, where in 6 months or a year, then you're going to get that uh, Spider-Man DLC character added. It's just a timed exclusive because that's how it was on Sony. Sony paid a third party for exclusive content, and that content was only exclusive for a year.
Yeah.
So, which is a long time in games, but it meant eventually uh, the other players would get it.
Yeah. I mean, I
Um,
think, I saw some like different conversation pieces as well, being like, well, maybe this, like, why isn't Microsoft making more of a push for these kinds of things? Like, and I think the answer is clear, is that because that's they're not trying to corner the market in that way. They're not trying to be like, hey, we have the shine. I mean, they have a shiny thing, but they're not trying to be like, hey, we have this thing, and you have to spend $400 in order to get it. They're like, hey, we have the shiny thing, and you only dollars to do it. Like, so they have a very like, we don't care that much about it. But I do think that means, like, if Spider-Man is that important to a lot of people, which he is, I think you'll see most people only playing this on PlayStation. Uh,
yeah.
uh,
On a sidebar,
but I highly doubt that this game itself is going to sell um, PlayStations, if that makes any sense.
sure. On a sidebar, did you see the most recent War Table?
No, I didn't actually.
Um,
But apparently, a lot of people said the game looks even better than
yeah, yeah. When
the stuff that
I
happened.
was actually quite like, which wasn't hard, but I was impressed with what we saw in the last War Table. Not to mention, like, the beta itself is enormous. We're talking like huge chunks. You get to play as multiple characters. You get to play as all the different missions. Like,
You have to pre-order it though to get into the beta, right?
you have to pre-order to get into the beta early. I think by the 20th or so. I don't have the dates in front of me. It's an open beta for the rest of the month.
Okay,
It's a month-long beta. And it
I'll
comes
play
out
beta.
in September. So,
Oh,
I think
next month.
based off what we saw in the last War Table, it's we should be paying a little bit closer attention to what they're doing, um, because they might turn it around on us.
I mean, I hope they do. I mean, the idea of the game is something I'd love to play, but nothing so far. But again, I haven't watched the thing. It's telling me I want to. But
All right,
but
moving
this
on.
Thursday, the last bit of PlayStation news for today's episode. The last big news from the PlayStation blog is that there will be a state of play on August 6th. That's this coming Thursday. State of Play returns this Thursday with a focus on third-party published games coming to PS4 and PSVR. We'll have a few PS PS5 game updates on third party and uh, indie titles you last saw in June's PS5 showcase. And all this is from the blog. And just to be super clear, there will be no PlayStation Studios updates in Thursday's episode. There won't be any updates around hardware, business, pre orders, or dates either. On Thursday, our focus is squarely on showcasing some of the cool upcoming games coming to the broader PlayStation ecosystem. The episode is weighing in at 40 plus minutes, which is a lot for a third party update. That's me. Um, and
Mm,
again, it'll be Thursday, August 6th at 1 p.m. Pacific time, 4 p.m. Eastern, and 9 p.m. whatever BST is, Britain Standard.
bullshit
Um,
that.
this was the yeah, this was the last part. And again, what people are upset about with this one is similar to what you had said just a bit ago, which is this is more cool information, maybe, but what we need right now is prices. Like
Yeah,
holidays coming up fast.
it's kind of shocking to me at this point that we haven't heard any pricing. I think I know both Sony and Microsoft are scared to talk about how expensive these boxes are going to be, but the longer you wait, the less people are going to be ready to buy those boxes when you release them.
Yeah,
Like, if they're going to be $600, let us know.
we need to start knowing how much
Yeah,
things are.
people gotta have to prepare to spend $700,
Yeah,
and
God forbid.
if you, yeah, no, if it's $700, it might price me out of it. Like,
Yeah.
uh,
Well, it won't be $700 for that, but it'll be $700 after you buy all this shit you're gonna buy with it.
right.
Um,
So, uh, we have to be talking about prices. Um, and this comes back down to my like this whole piecemeal everything out all year long. Sony wasn't doing that last year. Like we, let's get the big things out of the way. Like the last event at this point should have talked about the price,
yeah,
or this event should be talking about price, release date, and then end with a sizzle reel of, or not a sizzle reel, but talk about this for the last 20 minutes of the game of
yeah.
the the state of play. And so I'm sure it'll be fine. I'm sure you know it'll be mildly interesting, but it's definitely not what people are wanting to hear at this point.
Yeah.
They want to know how much they're going to spend this fall on
On
the
either of these
hardware.
fronts.
On the hardware, they're going to buy games no matter what. They just don't know if they're going to buy it on PS4 right now or not.
Yeah.
Like, we need to know what we're being priced out of and what we need to put
Expect.
together. So, and that's not just Sony. That's Microsoft too. And
Yeah.
they both need to be putting this stuff out here so we can get the ball rolling.
Yeah.
It's August.
Jeez. It shouldn't be. It's
No,
still March.
all right.
But yeah.
The longest March
I mean,
ever.
do you have any interest on what they could be showing on Thursday? Um, they're not gonna get rid of this console that easily. It's the highest install rate they've had for a long time or something like that. So
I mean, they're not.
like,
There's no first party games other than maybe some PSVR titles.
yeah,
So, uh, I don't know what they could be talking about here. Third party. I mean, I guess they could be talking about like what uh Activision's doing. Could be like a
yeah,
Call of Duty, because
yeah,
we haven't heard from Call of Duty, and we would normally have known about that in May.
yeah.
So that's another property that we know they got something coming out this year and don't know what.
For
I
some
think
reason, I feel like they're gonna talk about Marvel's Avengers because they have this sentence. Our focus is squarely on showcasing, and I'm like, maybe they'll
I
talk about.
doubt it.
I feel
Um,
like they might show Spider-Man in it.
Yeah, they might talk about Spider-Man, but as far as these war tables have been going, they're not going to spend a whole lot of time in a Sony event talking about the game that they've already talked. Two of these events. I think they got another one planned before the release of
Yeah,
the game. So we will see.
Josh, talk to me about Halo.
I don't know anything about Halo, but apparently the multiplayer for Infinite will be free to play. On July 31st, following speculation of the removal of Xbox Live Gold memberships from the Microsoft Store, the official Halo Twitter account uh, announced that Halo Infinite's multiplayer will be free to play and run at 120 FPS on Xbox Series X, which is incredible. That's
So I mean, none of our TVs can handle that right now. So
well, yeah, you have to have the right monitor, but that's impressive that
yeah,
this Xbox's next console is going to be capable of 120.
yeah,
So that's cool. More
it is
details
really cool.
will be coming later. Um,
And
there's
this is
also
me or us.
go ahead.
Well, I was just saying, so Jeff Grubb, who works at VentureBeat, um, he speculated a while ago, a couple weeks ago, that he thinks that Xbox Live Gold is going away permanently, and that all online components will be free. Right now, the debate is whether or not um, Halo Infinite will just be free to play, or if all of online services will be free. Um, he claims to suggest that it's just going away and nothing's going to replace it. I think that they'll have something. Um, because right now, like that's the gateway to play online is you have to have Xbox Gold to even socialize online. Now, what is interesting
Right.
I found out today is that kind of related,
I
but
was
kind of not,
I was just about to go there, I think, but go ahead.
is that doesn't
Oh no.
require Sony doesn't require um, online for free to play games
Right.
currently. So like if you play Warzone, you can play Warzone without having on PlayStation. You can't play Warzone without having an online subscription. But on Xbox, you had to have a gold to even play that.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
I'm not sure if like so it's still kind of unquestionable whether or not or questionable whether or not if they're going
I
to
c-
replace this with something or if it's going to be bundled into X
I can see
the gold.
Microsoft saying that their games are all going to be uh, free to play multiplayer
Yeah,
because all. But if you want to play the full game, you got to purchase Game Pass, and then Game Pass gets you access to all this stuff, and it gets you access to online multiplayer and all the third-party games. And because they just rebranded Xbox Game Pass to just be Game Pass with the
yeah,
Xbox logo, um, so it's just Game Pass. So this is your pass to play games.
yeah,
So you're gonna pay the subscription fee, the $15 a month. You're gonna get all these games included with the service. You're gonna get your online multiplayer services. You're gonna probably get your Xbox Gold games as well. If they don't end that, I would assume they'll just move it from Xbox games with Gold to Game Pass instead. Not only do you get all these games in the service, but here are two games that you're going to put on your console as well in the same service. And even if they go away from Game Pass, you're going to keep these particular games, just like they are doing now with Games of Gold. So
yeah,
that's kind of what I imagine they're going to do. Um, but it wouldn't surprise me either way. I mean, it would be kind of funny when you consider it was Xbox who came out with Xbox Live first, and you had to pay to play online, and that's why that was part of the reason PS3 was able to keep up was because Sony wasn't charging for online services, so you could just hook up to your router and you could play anything online. And then Sony
yeah,
brought that fee into play for the PS4, and now they're taking it away for Xbox, and so Sony's going to be the one where you had to pay a subscription fee to play online. So
yeah. I don't see Sony taking theirs off.
no, I don't either. Considering
Unless they get guilted into it, but
I don't think so. I mean, running a network is not cheap. Servers
yeah,
have to be maintained, so it makes sense that you have to pay a fee to play online. Um, but Microsoft's just going to take the win in that category. But you're also paying them through their Game Pass services. That's
yeah.
really they don't want you to pay for the Xbox Live anymore. They want you to take that money and put it into Xbox Game Pass.
So the thing I'm curious about that though is, I mean, this is ultimately the question of how Game Pass uh, financially gets returns for Microsoft. But like, uh, if you pretty much are required, if you're gonna do anything worth doing on Xbox, to have Game Pass, then what would compel you to buy a physical game, to actually buy a whole game, if unless with the only caveat being, well, it's not on Game Pass, then I have to buy it. But we already know all first party are going to be day and date with Game Pass, and several third
They
parties are starting to do that too.
they don't care if you buy the games. They would rather 30 million people pay for Game Pass than 5 million people buy a game.
Yeah, yeah,
So that they want 50 million people to pay $15 a month versus 5 million people paying $60 once.
yeah,
So that's where it's going to balance out at. And if you don't make them pay for online services, they are more likely to move that money to Xbox Game Pass, because with Xbox Live or Gold, you were getting an online component and you were getting 2 free games a month or 4 free games or whatever. And now you can pay $15 a month and you play online. You get all these games in the service, and then you get your whatever monthly games are for free, on top of whatever else they decide to throw in there. A massage and a foot rub or whatever. Like,
yeah.
let me fluff pillow.
Let me touch your feet. No.
um, so it's Microsoft again showing that they know how to market the services correctly.
Yeah. I mean, it's crossed my mind that this year I would possibly buy a marked down 1X and a PS5. Not that I have that kind of money. But
Yeah.
like eventually I could see myself having at least an Xbox system to play. But if I can turn my laptop or something into a Xbox, then
With XCloud, you can just play it on your phone. So
yeah. So, so for the last bit of news for today and the last bit of Halo news. Oh, no, sorry, there's two more things. Sorry. Last bit of Halo news is about their response to the criticisms that we shared last week on last week's episode. Um, 343 Industries, the developer for Halo Infinite and Halo, um, responded to the um, and Halo Infinite gameplay reveal, the criticisms of it. The response addressed both the visual style of the game as well as the visual fidelity, which were the two main points of critique. They have stated that they're pleased with their art style and their art style of the game, and have witnessed overwhelming support from players who are excited for the return to form of this next entry. Um, so they aren't so like people who are upset that it doesn't look as realistic or as grounded as some of the previous entries have. They they they've decided that they're okay with that, and like we're doing this anyway.
yeah,
The part that they do agree with is what many have criticized about the way the game looks, and not just in terms of art style, but the fidelity of it. We do have they say that we do have work to do to address some of these areas and raise the level of fidelity and overall presentation of the final game. The build used to run the campaign demo was a work in progress from several weeks ago, and a variety of graphical elements and game systems still being finished and polished. Um, so, which was something that was said by Aaron Greenberg on the day, as well,
yeah.
um, that the game that what they used wasn't the most up to date, and that
Wh-
they accept that some things were not great. Um, I mean, hopefully, this just means that they are going to push
Yeah,
push
I
it.
have no qualms with the art style of the game itself, other than it just isn't super appealing to me. Um, but it was definitely jarring to see, like, okay, we have this beautiful vista, but when you like actually look at something for more than a second, it
Yeah,
looked pretty rough. And
yeah,
I did take some time to look at it in the like the native 4K, or at least as close to 4K as I can get on
hmm
this PC. And it did look a lot better, but it still looked off. It
sure,
didn't look great.
yeah,
But it looked better than the double compressed video stream I watched initially. But it was still clear that yeah, this still needs a lot of work.
Yeah. With the game with the game coming out by November, there's a lot ahead of it.
Um,
Um,
but, yeah,
yeah, I mean that's pretty much it. Like I think at this point it's kind of an exhausted note because everyone's talking about it. At this point, I think people just need to wait and see what the game
yeah,
is, and it'll speak for itself when the time comes.
it's fun to speculate. It's fun to have the battles of Xbox versus PS4. But I'm curious to see what they could look like, and in 6 months, the conversation will be null because we will know. So,
Yeah,
um, uh, we can you know move on.
yeah. Cool. And our last article for today comes from gamesindustry.biz. This is an article from Rebecca Valentine, who conducted an interview with the CEO of Take Two Interactive, Strauss Zelnick, on the matter of the price increase of NBA 2K21 and how other parts of the industry are approaching next gen prices. I would highly recommend reading the full article. This talks about a few things, but there's a lot there. So please go give that a click when you can. Early in the article, she mentions how Ubisoft has decided, at least for now, to maintain their current prices of $60, whereas NBA 2K21 will be $70 for next gen. Um, she asked Zelnick if it has any effect on it, if Take Two has any is taking any effect of Ubisoft decisions. First, regarding the why of it, Zelnick says there hasn't been a price increase for frontline titles for a really long time, despite the fact that it costs a great deal more to make those titles. And we think with the value we offer consumers and the kind of experience you can really only have these next generation consoles, that the price is justified. But it's easy to say that when you're delivering extraordinary quality, and that's what our company prides itself on doing. I can,
Oh, yeah.
yeah, that was like a dig. That was a weird dig at Ubisoft. Like it's easy to say that when you just make great games. Um,
Yeah,
um,
like WWE 2K20.
yeah, yeah.
We're gonna
Uh,
just completely ignore that one.
yeah. She then pushed again on Ubisoft's approach, and he responded saying, we just speak for ourselves. Obviously, we don't speak for the industry, and the industry naturally does not coordinate on these matters, to say the very least. The pricing has to reflect on the quality of the experience, and we aim to provide the best experiences in the business. And from our point of view, is an extremely modest price change, given that the prices haven't changed for a very long time. And again, there's tons more on our article at gamesindustry.biz, so please go take a look at that. I will say, out of everything he says, like the last line, I think is probably the truest. Not that he's saying anything that's untrue, except for extraordinary quality games, but it is extremely modest price change, given that the prices haven't changed for a very long time.
That is true, and I think I don't know necessarily agree that the industry naturally does not coordinate on these matters. The industry has coordinated. It, for the most part, AAA titles have been 59.99 for 15 years, and before that, it was 49.99. And so we have been coordinating at least since the disc-based era.
yeah,
Um, and so that's not necessarily
but
accurate. And there are changes here and there when you have special editions and
yeah,
like sale models or whatever. But also we haven't had an increase in base price in 15 years, but we have increased in microtransactions in the last 15 years.
yeah,
And 2K is one of the like most notorious for bad transactions in the NBA 2K franchise. They have a literal casino, so it's not like they're hurting for money. I usually am about I am a more conservative, so I do tend to lean where the companies can make decisions on pricing, and the market will decide whether that pricing is good or not. Um, and I think it's all right for businesses to make money, and it's true. These uh, uh, games do cost a lot more than they did 15 years ago to make, but we're still seeing.
hold on, a second ago, I think I heard you say that there's a literal casino in NBA, and I think you meant GTA.
No, no, like the microtransactions in NBA 2K are in a casino, are a casino.
Oh,
There's casino games
oh, okay.
in 2K, so like you can play roulette and that kind of stuff to get
Oh, really?
coins to buy packs. Like
Oh, I
like
didn't know
there's
that.
like it's I don't know exactly how it works, but there you could play casino games in 2K.
Gotcha. Well, I mean, Take Two owns Rockstar as well, which does have a
Yes.
casino in it. So,
And and
like,
and,
it,
and here's the other thing. They obviously make some of the 2K and Rockstar. GTA made $1 billion in a day.
yeah,
I don't think they need to raise prices. Like
it's
in
true.
general, at this point, looking at Activision and EA and uh, 2K and Bethesda, I don't think any of the CEOs of those companies are hurting for
Yeah,
money or hurting to pay their employees. None of them are about to go out of business because the price of games are $60.
right.
So if if that were the case, we would see companies falling off all over the place because their $60 games are not selling. And that only happens if the games aren't good.
Right.
And so I don't necessarily agree that we need a price increase at this point, especially considering 15 years ago we were all physical. And now we're getting to the point where we're almost the majority digital and we're going to continue moving that way.
Yeah.
So it costs a lot less to produce non-physical copies, digital copies of games. You don't have to print, you don't have to ship, you don't have to share the revenue with anybody except the platform holders now. You don't have to share the revenue with Walmart and the truck companies and the gas companies. It goes directly to between 2K and PlayStation.
Yeah.
So so the amount of money they're getting per game sold is higher. And raising the price. A lot of the well, I can handle a price increase, but let's get rid of microtransactions. Well, that
Yeah.
genie's already out of the bottle. That stuff is never going to go away because EA and Activision and 2K make too much money off of microtransactions. So again, this is just another point where I don't think we need to raise prices anymore. In the industry that we're in today, if it were all physical, I might agree, but we're not all physical anymore, and it's not the only way that companies are monetizing their money or their
Yeah.
games. They're also selling products. Like they're also getting free advertising on Twitch. So
Yeah.
if you make a good game, kids are gonna play it on Twitch and make money and promote their game being played. So more people are gonna play their game. So more people are playing games than ever. And this idea that we need to raise prices just it doesn't match the industry
Yeah.
that we're seeing.
No, that's a good point. And because I would say that I was probably pretty pro price increase overall. Just
I was
just
too.
because just because like, there are developers that like can't afford to pay their people and stuff like
Absolutely.
that. So like I'm okay. But the point you just made, I think, is a salient one, which is that um as um we shift to digital, then I think that's probably the truest point. As we shift to digital, then if you're going to maintain prices, you got
And
to give
that's
us
what
good reason.
Yeah, and that's why you see a lot of indie developers start off on Steam
Yeah,
because they don't have to make a physical copy. They can make a game and release it on Steam, and if it does well, then they can use that money to port it to PlayStation and Switch, and that because and you might only see digital versions of those games because they have to
yeah,
do the digital porting, whatever process that entails, and do the certifications and all that, and that all costs money, but
yeah,
they don't have to make physical copies. And if someone wants physical copies, then you have to work with a company that does that. And um, but that's something an indie developer. That's typically the path of an indie developer.
right,
Now you just release your game digitally, and if it gets successful enough, then you put it physically.
yeah.
Mm.
So yeah, and coming from him, it is a little like, well, we just think it's we think it's modest. Like, what's $10?
And that they might, and NBA 2K players are going to pay $70 if they really want to play their uh, basketball game. They're going to pay $70. I would really like the market to speak here and not buy the game.
Yeah.
But that's not going to happen.
Mm.
Now, if you feel the value is there, like I don't mind spending when Destiny comes out with a digital deluxe edition. I don't mind spending the extra money on the deluxe stuff, even if I don't use the stuff because I just really enjoy the game and I like supporting the developer. And
Yeah.
that's my choice. I find the value there, and that's where the market speaks. I find the value in it, and so I pay a price. That's like a Patreon. When
Yeah.
you find a creator that's putting out free YouTube videos, you can choose to give them money for stuff you could get for free because
Yeah.
you want to support them. And that's how a market works. If you didn't support them, they would fail and they would have to do something different.
Yeah. Well, that's true. Um, I'm interested to see if more games go that way though. If they, but like, I will say if I don't know if I buy the digital only PlayStation 5 and then all of the games are $70 on there, that would probably rub me the wrong way a little bit. Uh,
Yeah. And that will probably be the case.
yeah.
Well, not all, yeah, except for Ubisoft games.
Yeah. So I think it's interesting. It would be interesting to see it split up like that. Like, oh well, this company is going to charge their game $70, and this company is going to charge their game 60, and this one's going to do 40 or
Mm.
something like that.
Yeah, and
Uh,
I do think we ought to explore the scale, but and it would be funny to me if EA was like, well, we're going to put out NBA, whatever their NBA Live, and it's only going to be $60, and we're not, even our next gen version is going to be $60, and undercutting 2K and seeing how that fares for them because they could come out as the hero, even though
yeah,
they typically aren't the better game, which is why NBA Live isn't huge.
yeah. So it'll be interesting to see. There's a lot of, like you said, a lot of questions that will be answered in just like few short months. But we feel like we've been saying that for months that we were gonna know more. I definitely thought that by the end of or by August we would have known everything that we needed to know about how our wallet was going to be affected this Christmas, and we have not.
No.
So, but that's all the news that we have for you this week. If you have any advice or thoughts on all that, please share it in the comments below, or you can tweet at us. You can tweet at me at Speak Nicklish.
And you can tweet at me at Jaws1015 or the uh, account at Ware Gaming underscore. And then I guess until Ware Gaming Weekly or next week, say goodbye, Nick.
Goodbye, Nick. My not working.
And Nick froze for the first time in this episode.
I'm-
Hang on.
Cool. Let me know when I'm back.
Well, I've got your audio, but your camera is still totally frozen. Hey, there you are. Chop chop.
Cool. You didn't miss anything because I stopped talking.